I woke up to the sound of someone else breathing. For a few seconds, I lay still, staring at the faint crack in the ceiling above our bed, trying to place the rhythm. It wasn't labored. It wasn't anxious. It was calm, steady, familiar, the kind of breathing that comes from someone who believes everything in their life is exactly where it should be. That's when the first thought crossed my mind, not fear, not suspicion, just a quiet, strange realization. I don't know this man anymore. My name is MAE Ellison. I am 41 years old. I have been married for 22 years. I have one daughter, one apartment, one carefully maintained reputation, and a life that looks stable from the outside. Inside, it had already begun to rot. The morning unfolded like every other. Coffee brewed, toast burned slightly on one edge. My husband Ethan scanned headlines on his phone, while nodding at nothing in particular. He wore the same navy shirt he wore every Tuesday, the one I used to iron until I realized he didn't notice either way. "You're quiet," he said, not looking up. "I didn't sleep well," I replied. That was true. It just wasn't the whole truth. For months, maybe longer, I had been sleeping lightly, waking at odd hours with a pressure in my chest I couldn't explain. Not panic, not dread, just awareness, as if some part of me had started listening for a sound I couldn't yet hear. Our daughter Lena emerged from her room, hair damp from the shower, backpack slung over one shoulder, 17 sharp-eyed, too observant for her own good. "Mom," she said, "did you see my sketchbook?" "It's on the chair," I answered automatically. She smiled. Ethan kissed the top of her head, a picture-perfect moment, the kind people imagine when they say, "good family." The door closed behind them. Silence settled. I stood in the kitchen for a long time, holding an empty mug, wondering why the silence felt louder than noise. I didn't start investigating because I suspected an affair. That's important. I didn't notice lipstick on collars, or unfamiliar scents, or secret phone calls whispered in corners. If I had, maybe things would have been simpler, clearer. Pain has a shape when it's obvious. What I noticed instead were numbers. Ethan had always been meticulous about money. Spreadsheets, color-coded budgets, monthly reviews we pretended were team meetings. We weren't rich, but we were careful. Lena's college fund was sacred, untouchable. So when I logged into our shared account one afternoon and saw a small transfer I didn't recognize, nothing dramatic, just a few $100s, I assumed it was an error. I asked him about it over dinner. "Oh, that," he said easily. "Advance for a work thing. I'll put it back." No hesitation, no defensiveness. I nodded. Trust is efficient that way. But the transfers didn't stop. They stayed small, scattered, almost thoughtful, like breadcrumbs laid out by someone who knew exactly how much attention I paid. I didn't confront him again. I started watching instead. Observation is a lonely skill. I learned it slowly, the way you learn a language you never wanted to speak. I watched how Ethan folded himself into the couch at night, body relaxed, mind elsewhere. I watched how he smiled, that linear smiles, not fake ones. I watched how he planned vacations he never seemed excited about. And I watched how he guarded his phone, not hiding it, not shielding the screen, just always keeping it close, like a habit that had outlived its reason. The money discrepancies grew more frequent, still small, still explainable. That's when I did something I'd never done before. I opened a notebook, not to record proof, not yet, just to write questions. Why Tuesday nights? Why cash withdrawals when cards would be easier? Why the new credit card I didn't know about? The questions didn't accuse, they waited. The first real crack came from Lena. We were sitting at the dining table one evening, her sketchbook open between us. She was working on a series of architectural studies, bridges, old staircases, abandoned buildings, places that had once connected people. "Dad's been weird," she said casually, shading a column. My heart stilled. "Weird how?" She shrugged. "Not bad weird, just distracted, like he's always somewhere else." I forced a smile. "He's probably stressed." "Yeah," she said, then paused. "Mom, yes, promise me something." I looked at her, really looked, the way her brow furrowed when she was serious, the way she mirrored me more than she knew. "Promise you won't pretend everything's fine if it's not." The words landed harder than any accusation could have. "I promise," I said, and for the first time, I wasn't sure I could keep it. I didn't hire a private investigator. I didn't follow him. I didn't dig through trash or hack accounts. I did something far more dangerous. I asked questions. At his office's charity fundraiser, I asked a coworker how long Ethan had been overseeing a certain community initiative he'd mentioned once in passing. "Oh, that project," she said, puzzled. "I thought that wrapped up years ago." I smiled, nodded, let it go. Later, I asked Ethan casually about that initiative. He blinked once too many times before answering. It's ongoing, he said. Different phase. That night, I wrote a new question in my notebook. Why lie when the truth would cost nothing? The investigation unfolded quietly, over weeks, public records, old grant announcements, property filings tied to shell organizations. It wasn't dramatic. It was tedious, and that's what made it devastating. I wasn't uncovering a secret life fueled by passion. I was uncovering a parallel obligation. Money redirected. Time accounted for. Decisions made without me, not impulsively, but as if my consent had simply become unnecessary. The betrayal wasn't sexual. It was administrative. Oh. That realization hurt more than I expected. The truth crystallized on a Thursday afternoon. I had taken the day off under the pretense of a migraine. In reality, I sat in a public library, surrounded by strangers who didn't know my name, my marriage, my careful illusions. I finally saw the pattern. Ethan wasn't cheating. He was building something, a responsibility, a commitment, one that didn't involve romance, secrecy, or hidden children. Nothing so simple. He had been financially and legally supporting a branch of his extended family he had never told me about, not out of obligation, out of control. Properties registered in trust, funds allocated, futures planned, all without telling his wife. All while using the language of we in our own home. I closed my notebook and sat very still. The betrayal wasn't that he helped them. The betrayal was that he decided I didn't deserve to know. When I confronted him, I didn't shout. I laid the notebook on the table between us. I know, I said. He stared at it for a long time. Then he exhaled. I was going to tell you. I laughed, once, quietly. No, you weren't. He didn't argue. That was worse. The conversation lasted hours. Explanations, justifications, rationalizations dressed as care. I didn't want to burden you. I didn't think you'd understand. I handled it so you wouldn't have to. Every sentence removed me further from my own marriage. By the end, there was nothing left to save. The aftermath wasn't explosive. It was slow, bureaucratic, painfully adult. Lawyers, counseling, conversations with Lena that broke both of us open. Weeks of living in the same apartment like polite strangers sharing a waiting room. Some nights, I lay awake listening to the same steady breathing that had once comforted me. Now, it sounded like distance. Healing didn't arrive in a montage. It came in small in moments where I almost called him out of habit, in mornings where coffee tasted wrong. But it came, eventually. I moved out. Not dramatically, just deliberately. I took my notebook with me. 2 years later, my life is quieter. Not easier, quieter. Lena visits on weekends. We talk honestly now, awkwardly, lovingly. I work less, rest more. I ask questions when something feels wrong. Sometimes, late at night, I still feel the echo of the woman who believed silence was safety. Then I remind myself, awareness hurts, but it heals. And if this story touched something inside you, then stay with Whispers of MAE. God bless.